priest who I lived with for a number of years, and he had a favorite saying. And he would say over and over again, "It's all about the food." Needless to say, he was an Italian and a very good cook. But it's all about the food. Well, think about that in terms of the Catholic Church. What is really the center of what we're going to do in a few moments? It's the meal, the sacred meal. It's a sacrificial meal, but it's about the bread of life. See, I think God has been preparing people all along for what is the greatest gift that we have in the church, and it's the gift of the Holy Eucharist. Think about the Jewish people in the desert. When they were hungry, what did he do? He provided them with manna, a strange food. It means manna from the Hebrew. What is it? They didn't know what it was. But God gave them bread from heaven, as it said. He gave them and sustained them for their journey in the desert. Then we come to this particular miracle, the miracle of the loaves and fish. And we can see it definitely has an anticipation of something to come. Jesus is doing something. Listen to the language very closely. When you hear, what does it sound like? He said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave it to his disciples after looking up to heaven. It sounds like what we say in the Eucharistic prayer, doesn't it? So when we see this multiplication of the loaves, think it's an anticipation, a foreshadowing of when he's going to feed us, not with loaves and fish, but with his own body and his own blood under the appearance of bread and wine. It's leading somewhere. And what is even the Eucharist leading us to? Union with God. We're anticipating one day being united with God forever, aren't we? We say we want to get to heaven. Well, what is heaven? We enjoy the beatific vision. We want to see God and be in his presence for all eternity. And this is an anticipation of joining with God. Think of what we have in the Eucharist. All of this. So the readings this weekend, first reading from prophet Isaiah. All you who are thirsty, come to the water. Come receive grain and eat. It's being fed, being nourished by the Lord. The prophet is calling people to be nourished. The psalm, the hand of the Lord feeds us. He answers all our needs. We have to understand this is all leading to something. Now we should reflect on the most beautiful gift that we have. And it is Christ himself. He tells us, he interprets for us in John chapter 6, that I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never hunger. He who drinks of me will never thirst again. These kind of things are not said accidentally, but to help us to understand what we have in the church. I hear over the years many people say, well, they can pray anywhere, or people say, well, I left the church. And I always question, you can pray anywhere, but can you receive the Eucharist anywhere? You can leave the Catholic Church, you can go pray in another denomination, but do you have the Eucharist? Do you have the real presence of Christ? Read John chapter 6. It's a great understanding of where we are with the Eucharist, because he said, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. All of these things that are hard to take. People in the crowd left him, and he didn't chase after them and say, come back. You misunderstood what I said. No. He said some very definitive things. But here in this multiplication of the loaves and the fish, you can hear the Eucharistic overtones. That he is preparing the people. He's feeding them first with his loaves and fish, and then with his own body and his blood to come. And so let's reflect on the great gift of the Eucharist that we have. One of the things that really fascinates me, you ever watch when a mother bird feeds her nest, and those birds are up there, and the mouths are open, and they're waiting for the mother or the father, whoever's going out and scavenging for the worm or whatever, they're hungry. Their mouths are open. Feed me. You know, it's kind of a thing that we should understand. We all hunger. Yes, we hunger for physical food, but we hunger for something much more. In a real sense, we are spiritual beings. We have body and soul. So our souls hunger. And God anticipates this hunger by feeding us spiritually, supernaturally. We are given God Himself as our food and drink. And this is not something we should take and just poo-poo and say, this is, well, it's a symbol. That's the Protestant interpretation. It is not the Catholic. I tell people when I consecrate the Eucharist, what do I do right after I say those words? I genuflect. I'm not genuflecting to bread, I hate to tell you. That's not bread anymore. I'm genuflecting to God, who is now called down out of heaven to be on our altar under the appearance of bread and wine. There's something mysterious that is happening in it right before our eyes. We can't see it with our physical eyes, but we see it in the eyes of faith. It's Jesus becoming present. What He says happens. What God says, it's not a mistake. This is my body, is His body. Make no mistake about that. This is my blood of the covenant. And it happens right before our eyes in this sacred setting. It is a sacrificial meal. And when they make covenants, you know, the animal or the victim is sacrificed. And then what happens after it's sacrificed? It's eaten. It's consumed. You become one with the sacrifice. And that's exactly what happens. We are, remembering, recalling, representing the death of the Lord. He's giving us His body. But this is my body, which is for you, which He then carries out the next day. This is my body, which is for you. And what are we doing? The sacrifice is being made, and we are consuming the sacrifice. It's an anticipation of becoming one with God forever in eternity. God allows us to consume Jesus' flesh and blood in anticipation of union with God for all eternity. It's quite a mystery that we do. And, we don't always understand. I watch people just not understand, some of the times that most upsets me is weddings and funerals, especially when people don't go to church. And I have to chase them down the aisle sometimes because they take the host and they don't seem to understand. This is God. This is not a game. This is not something to just look at and pop in your mouth like a potato chip. It's a sacred meal. That's why it's even more, like I go back to the bird imagery. We're being fed by God. Rather than grab and go. I think we've gotten into that. This is, we're like, wow, grab and go, run out the door. It's a sacred meal. It's Christ Himself. Do we realize what we're doing? That's my point. This is all leading up to something. This multiplication of the loaves and fish is helping us to understand what God is doing for us. He wants to provide for His people. He wants to feed us, not just physically, but spiritually. He wants to feed our souls. So think about what we do. With reverence, receive the Lord. It's so important that we receive the Lord. It's Jesus. It's not bread. It's not something that's, that's so common. Yeah, bread is a common food. We go to a table, we like a bread basket, we start with the bread in the pot. It's something, but He took those common elements, which is such an act of humility of God, and He transforms them into Himself. What a mystery we have. That's why in the Catholic Church, when we have that tabernacle, realize His presence is here, an abiding presence with us. You have to know the history, go back into the Jewish, I don't have time to do it here, but of the showbread. They used to have loaves in the temple that was an indication of the presence of God. And the Jewish showbread, well, it's so much a fulfillment of everything that led up to that point, that we have the presence of the Lord in the tabernacle, in our presence, so we can pray and worship and adore Him. When we have Eucharistic adoration, we're adoring Him under the appearance of bread. So this is God in our midst, being fed by the Most High, like He did for His people all along. Realize the gift that we have, treasure the Eucharist, respect it, because we are approaching and allowed to consume God Himself. That also means we should be spiritually prepared. Our souls should be prepared. We always say you should be in the state of grace to receive God. Be prepared. That's why confession is important, that we prepare ourselves for the most holy gift. So it's a little reflection for us that is anticipated by this giving of bread and fish, multiplying for the crowds, so that they would be taken care of in their needs, but in the end, God will provide for what we need by giving us His very self. May God bless you.